newest installment in the Resident Evil franchise. Welcome to Raccoon City. I'm going to make this review really short because I don't have a ton to say. This movie sucked. It's really all I can say. So, I've never played a Resident Evil game. I didn't watch the other movies. I heard they were bad anyway, so I didn't bother. And this movie has a rocky start already, purely on the fact that it's a video game movie. Video game movies, in their nature, suck. I think the only two exceptions that are legitimately good are Pokemon Detective Pikachu and the second Angry Birds movie. It's even the first Angry Birds, I have a soft spot for, but even I acknowledge it's not great. All of the others suck, and if you've seen any of the reactions online or seen them for yourself of the trailer for the upcoming Uncharted movie that comes out in a couple months, looks like they're continuing that trend, and I don't think Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is going to be much better than the first awful movie, so already off to a bad start. And I was debating whether or not I was going to watch this at all. If you saw my Diary of a Wimpy Kid review, at the end I said that next was Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. And I said, be prepared if I decide not to watch it at all. I sucked it up and went. And it was as bad as I was expecting. The trailers weren't particularly enticing for this movie. I don't really care too much about this franchise. I don't like horror movies in general, so not great there. And also the title is horrendous. Who thought this was a good title? Just who? Is it Welcome to Raccoon City? That's so stupid. But whatever. You can have a movie you can have a stupid title but still have a good movie. Not so much here. I'm trying to think. One thing I can commend this movie for, I legitimately can, is that unlike a lot of horror movies, it doesn't rely on jump scares. There are a couple, of course, but it mostly tries to build suspense and have genuine horror in it. It's not the least bit scary, I assure you, but I can commend it on the fact that they tried. They tried to avoid jump scares. They tried to build actual suspense. It didn't work. But they tried, and I can commend them for that. That's probably the only good thing I can say about this movie, though. I guess the acting overall is okay, I guess. I like Kaya Scodelario, and I like Robbie Amell, but Scodelario has pretty much already done this role in the Maze Runner movies. This is like basically the Scorched Trials all over again. And she played Teresa in that, so she's pretty much already done this role. But there are plenty of times where even the two good actors in this, and hell, you remember the actress who played Ghost in Ant-Man and the Wasp? She's in this too. Don't particularly remember her name and don't really care enough to look it up, but okay. Rest of the actors I don't recognize at all. But some of them do fine, but overall, it's like the acting becomes awkward at times. Like, the conversations never feel genuine. There are plenty of times where something bad will happen, and the characters will have virtually no reaction. Like, there's a scene where there are a few characters, and one of them gets, like, grabbed by one of the creatures from a ceiling. It's, like, grabbed him, and they pulled up, and then they turn around, and of course he gets, like, killed above, and then drops back down, and is a bloody mess now, has, like, claw marks all over him, like these big, remember like the lizard's claws across Spider-Man? It's just like even bigger than that, like all across, and no reaction out of either of the other characters. None of them react. That happens a lot. There are a lot of line deliveries that aren't very good, especially in the suspenseful scenes. And I don't know I guess they were just given bad directions. I know these are good. Robbie Amell could even give a decent performance in the Arrowverse, and that is full of bad acting. So they try, at least. They don't do a particularly good job, but they try. Again, that's another portion where they try. The story sucks. That's the biggest problem with this. The story sucks. It's boring as hell. This is the best way to sum up this movie. This is probably one of the most boring films I've seen in the past few years. This is Flatliners level boring in more ways than one. I mean, I was talking about the 2017 movie Flatliners, but this movie was also kind of a flatline in general. But I'll say, both a reference and a pun, I guess. But this was one of the most boring movies of the year by far. I'm trying to think if there was another movie that bored me to death this much. I mean, at least it was mercifully short. Not including credits, it was probably about an hour 35. And so at least it was short. I can give it that. It wasn't a 4-hour slog like Justice League. Like, you know what? That one was probably more boring because it was over twice as long and pissed me off a lot more. But this one didn't really piss me off; just bored me to tears. The action is something I was actually looking forward to in this because I know the Resident Evil movies, especially like the last few. I didn't see them, but from what I heard, like they did okay with the action. But then like the last couple, they over relied on shaky cam and bad CGI. So I was looking forward to maybe they could up the action a bit, like do some really cool stuff with it. No, there's hardly any action to begin with, and B, whenever there is, it's not particularly good. The lighting doesn't help, because there are times when the movie seems overly lit. Like, there are a couple scenes where they're trying to build suspense, but it's so overly lit that you can't take it seriously. But then there are a couple times you literally can't see what's happening. There is a scene in this, I am not kidding. There's an action sequence where it's one guy fighting off a bunch of these zombie things. I don't know what else to call them. Are they called zombies in the game? I don't know. I don't think they are here, but whatever. The thing's infected by the T or G virus, whichever one it is. I really don't care, but the zombies, essentially, they're like swarming one of the characters, and he's like shooting all of them. It's like that terrible action sequence in Army of the Dead, but in this one, whenever he's not firing his gun, it is pitch black. And I mean that, like, this level pitch darkness. Okay, that was not a very good way to do it, but you get my point. It is pitch black. You cannot see a damn thing. And then it's only illuminated whenever he fires his gun. And not to mention that character is Chris Redfield, who's played by Robbie Amell, seems to have infinite plot armor. That scene especially, he should have been killed. He's totally fine. He's totally fine. And there's even a point where where like 4 of the cops are in this building and it explodes. 3 of them survive. 1 of them gets turned into a zombie. It's barely acknowledged, but at least it kind of is acknowledged. But the rest of them survive with barely a scratch on them. Bull. The music was forgettable. I don't even remember if there was music. There had to have been, but it's so forgettable. The CGI sucks. Like, there's this one, like, creature, you know that creature that, like, showed up at the end of the second trailer, I want to say? The thing that just, like, roared in front of the camera? You see that thing for all of 30 seconds, which I kind of say thank God, because the effect is not impressive. And the final villain of this, I can give it props that what he turns into after he's killed looks like the game. But he turns into 2 different things, so I'll get into that in a second. He turns into this, where it's got like the T-virus thing where he's like all the way across his side, and he has like the thing and all that, so it looks pretty accurate. It looks silly in live action, but at least it looks accurate. And he's disposed of very quickly. What? And then he turns into this even bigger and sillier looking monster, like 3 times the size and completely infected now, and is disposed of in about 30 seconds. What? You could have at least had a really cool, for lack of a better term, final boss in this. But no, I think a final boss in the game, watching someone play the game in a final boss would be more entertaining. Like, even the ones without commentary, that would make a better movie conclusion than this. And speaking of that ending, what? Yeah, what ending? Really, what ending? So, I'm trying to figure out the ending. I don't really want to look up into those ending explained bullshit, because that feels cheap. But I have no idea what. I guess the Umbrella Corps destroyed Raccoon City, and the only survivors were the the 5 people who got away, because they have huge plot armor in this. It was Chris, Claire, Leon, the kind of comic relief character, the rookie cop, but he's not really funny. He has a few lines that are comedic, but A, most of them don't work, and B, that's kind of all the comedy in this anyway. There's this one kid you barely see, who I guess was the daughter of the villain in this, and then there's the other cop chick, the Ghost, really. I'm just gonna call her Ghost, because that's what she was in the only other movie I've seen her in, so I'm just gonna call her Ghost. They're the only ones that survive, because it says, like, civilian survivors, and it says 0. And then they just walk out the tunnel, like, okay, they're setting up a sequel. Of course, what movie isn't nowadays? They all walk out the tunnel, and then title card. Movie over. If there was an after credit scene, I couldn't be bothered to stay and look. Because I wanted out of there as soon as possible. I said, screw this, I'm done. If there is a sequel to this, there probably won't be. This movie's doing really bad at the box office. It's made on a budget of like $25 million. It's made like $13 million domestically, and even less than that overseas. I think in total it's made about $25 million. So I don't see a sequel to this getting made. And thank God, if a sequel does end up coming out, probably won't see it. I have no interest in this franchise, and this movie did nothing to help that. But again, I can give it credit that it didn't rely solely on jump scares or any of that garbage, but the rest of the movie just wasn't good. There was nothing really to latch onto. I will give it credit that it didn't piss me off. If it had relied solely on jump scares, it probably would have pissed me off, but it didn't anger me. It just bored me. I was utterly bored watching this. So, that's all I got for Resident Evil. Stupid subtitle here. D+. That's it. I have no concluding thoughts for this, so thank you all so much for watching, and now I've got to go work on my November ranking. Yay! Actually, November, pretty much the only November video I've been looking forward to outside of Tick, Tick, Boom and Eternals. Ghostbusters was pretty good, though, so